actually. I was doing so well, and then in the long run, you're just going to pick the minimum of these average cost curves to produce your output. So the long run average cost curve is the salad bowl that these short run average cost curves sit in. It is the envelope of the short run average cost curves. Now, I'm going to see if I can answer your question without you asking it. And you might ask, and if it's the wrong question, then I'll answer your question. You're saying, Max, with the salad bowl right here, is the salad bowl always exactly tangent at the bottom of these cost curves? Not necessarily, right? It might be a little bit to the side. That's a mathematical thing because this way it's shaped, all right? We're going to ignore that. Intuitively, what this means is you're going to adjust your capital to minimize cost of production for any level of output by picking the right level of capital. Now, was that your question or no? All right, then ask your question. So in the long run, you're going to choose the short run level of capital that gets you on the short run average cost curve that gets you the cheapest way of producing the amount of output, right? Because you get to essentially by choosing the level of capital, you get to choose which short run cost curve you're going to be on. Now here's a question. I'm going to give away a lot of money today. This is for a $5. I still have to make it to the airport. $5. Daniel Day-Lewis on it. I'm joking. It's a great performance, though. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it. I thought it was great. What does this average cost curve tell me about my production process? The one I drew for you. You got to raise your hand if you want $5. Yes. That's exactly it, right? It's U-shaped. That means it's falling initially and it's rising thereafter. So it's increasing returns to scale initially and then decreasing returns to scale thereafter. So are they always U-shaped? No, right? If they were constant returns to scale, these average cost curves would just all be in a straight line, and the average cost curve would be a straight line. If it were increasing returns to scale everywhere, they would just keep on dropping. If it was decreasing returns to scale everywhere, they would just sort of be lined up to be increasing everywhere. But this one's the one I drew you earlier, where you have increasing returns to scale initially and then decreasing returns to scale thereafter. So here, IRTS, here, roughly decreasing returns to scale. All right, that's all I want to say about this relationship. Okay, let's take a break for a second, and then let's get into it again. Anybody here watch Leo's fabulous performance in The Aviator? Yeah, a great movie, right? Leo DiCaprio. Leo! But the point here is, what did the main character in the movie, who happened to be a very famous real person, of course, try to do? Fly everything that wasn't designed to fly, essentially, at speeds that it definitely wasn't designed to fly at. So what was his big idea?
In World War II, he made a wooden plane that could land or take off on water.
So transport troops and all kinds of stuff in an airplane made out of wood, right? The idea here was that steel and stuff was scarce and expensive, so if you could build airplanes out of wood, it'd be inexpensive. And everybody said it couldn't fly. Did the Spruce Goose fly? But it flew, right? So yeah, it didn't really transport much at all, but I think it was in Long Beach Harbor. It sort of flew and then it landed again. Really great scene in the movie. So had we built big cargo planes from wood before? No, right? Not really big ones. We built planes from wood before, but fully wood constructed frame, wings, everything. Big cargo planes designed to transport really heavy things? No. So the first time you do it, do you think it was tricky? It was hard to figure out? Yeah, right? How do you build this thing? Can you use the same sort of framing techniques you use on a house to build a plane? We didn't know, right? You use the same sort of joints and stuff. Yeah, you got to figure it out. So it was tricky. Anybody here ever built their own computer before? How was the first time building the computer?
It was tricky, but fortunately I had to fix it because I taken it apart.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out how to fix it.
So did you then did you build computers thereafter again?
Yeah, once I did it the first time, it was easy.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I wanted you to say. Thank you. And I didn't pay him either. But the point here is, once you figure out how to do something the first time, the second time you do it, it's usually easier, right? So building a computer the first time, you're like, holy cow, this is like really fancy, very expensive Lego. And then you realize it's just like Legos, right? Second computer you build pretty quick. So when I was in grad school, we had no money. I went to UC, and we got $5,000 to build a computer lab to service 60 graduate students. So we basically just bought processors, hard drives, bare bones stuff, and built 20 computers with $5,000. That was a challenge. They were fast and really hot. But the first one we built took like 35 minutes to put together. In the end, we had a time we were building computers in 8 minutes. It was pretty good, and they worked. So as you go on building something, you learn something in the production process. You learn things by doing things, and that concept is called learning by doing. All right, learning by doing simply means the first time you build something, if the first order of spruce geese was 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the average cost for the first order would have been this. If the first order would have been 1, the average cost would have been this, right? There may be returns to scale in the production process. But the second time around, they really figured it out, right? So the second round of orders, granted this stuff was never ordered, you're just better, right? Division of labor of individual production processes kicked in. You've learned how to put this stuff together the first round, so your average costs of productions fall for any level of production. Right? So there's a drop in the average cost of production that happens because you learn something by doing that the first time. This is very different from learning by using, right? This is different from technological innovation. You're using the same hammers, the same people being paid the same wages and same cost of capital. But these people figured something out the first time they did it, so the average cost of production the second time were lower. One of our most successful grad students in recent years, Ryan Kellogg, wrote a very nice job market paper called Learning by, did he call it Learning by Drilling in the end? Yeah, Learning by Drilling. He looked at the Texas oil patch and looked at how people drilling oil wells in the Texas oil patch learn over time how to better drill in certain types of parcels. Certain types of parcels. It was a really nice exercise that got published in the best econ journal out there. So this stuff is cool. The reason I say that is you're learning stuff here that seems like undergrad stuff, but these basic concepts are still, the empirical application and detection and estimating the magnitude of these effects. That's what we do, right? That's what we get paid for and get famous for. Okay, finally, we have arrived. All right, we have arrived at the point where we're going to answer the final question we need. And the final question we need is trying to figure out how much output should the firm produce. Right? So far, I've just yelled and waved my hands and been annoying and tall and said stuff about the firm. Your boss decides you should produce 100 units. Well, how does he know that? Or how does she know that? Right? So the point here is, how do we figure it out? So in that decision on how much to produce, that comes in 1,000 different flavors. And we're going to look at different flavors of this, but we're going to start with something called perfect competition in a little while. But in order to figure out how much the firm should produce, it's going to consider its cost function, and we will see that its marginal and variable costs matter greatly here. It considers how much it can sell at any given price. Right? If there's no demand for a good at any given price, you probably aren't going to make it. And you're going to look at the structure of the market you're going to sell into. Are there a lot of other firms already operating in that market? Right? How easy is it to enter that market, or how easy is it for firms to exit the market? And what we'll see in one of my favorite models of all time in economics, something called monopolistic competition, is how can you differentiate your products from your competitors' products. I will give you a model that will explain to you why there are 1,000 different types of toothpastes. All right? It's perfectly rational for firms to do that, and why every year we come up with a type of toothpaste we didn't know we needed. There is glitter, orange flavored. Hold on, it's gel. That was the last one I saw. That changes flavor after a few minutes when you're done, and then it comes in a squeezy tube, right? So that's the new thing right now in the toothpaste market. But we come up with new and new ideas, so we differentiate our product from our competitors, and why is this rational? I think it's annoying, but it makes sense. So what I'm going to show you is in a model of perfect competition here, and we'll talk about perfect competition in much greater detail later, but I'm going to assume for now that a firm takes price as given. I've been playing with my ruler, and now it's gone. Here it is. So the market that you remember from your intro to economics class has a demand curve, downward sloping, right? So that's how I remember it. If you give me an upward sloping demand curve, I'll get kind of mad. So D demand, downward sloping. And a supply curve looks like this. Where's equilibrium price in that market? Interesting things in economics always happen where the lines cross. So this here is going to be equilibrium market quantity, and this here is going to be equilibrium price. So what price does the firm get if it sells its output into a big, competitive, large market? It gets whatever P star is that is in the market, right? So a perfectly competitive firm cannot influence market price. No matter how much it sells or how little it sells, it does not affect market price. It takes price as given, which we sometimes say is the firm faces a horizontal demand curve. So a firm, competitive, faces a horizontal demand curve. Oh, thank you. It says that right here. So here's how much worse my handwriting is compared to what it says on the board here. Okay. So profit maximization, right? So if the firm takes price as given, which is what I'm telling you here, which there are some firms that determine price, monopolists, oligopolists, all kinds of weird firms determine price. Firms who are really good at differentiating their product determine their own price. We'll talk about this. But for now, firms take price as given. They're perfectly competitive firms. Think of a wheat farmer selling wheat into the market for wheat, or an oil producer selling oil into a globally competitive market for oil, because there really isn't any market power in oil markets, right? OPEC? Yeah, I'm being sarcastic. But the point here is firms maximize profit. Right? We know that profits are simply revenues, price times quantity, minus costs. So there's going to be profits in the short run, and there's going to be profits in the long run, right? Where in the short run, costs are short run costs. In the long run, they are long run costs. So in math or science terms, we write this as profits is simply revenue minus total costs, right? The way we write a firm making positive profits is if revenues, price times quantity, you take in more money than you spend, right? If revenues are greater than total costs, you make a positive profit. If revenues are less than total costs, you make a negative profit. So if profits are negative, the firm makes a loss. Now, it may be intuitive to you to say, or your intuition may say, well, I bet you Max is going to tell me that firms shut down when profits are negative. It turns out that it's true in the long run, and as I'll show you. But in the short run, it may actually be optimal for a firm to take a loss and still produce output and not shut down. All right? That sounds counterintuitive, but will make sense in about 45 seconds. Well, maybe 7 minutes. What are profits? Okay? This is the same sort of parallel as we had for economic costs versus business costs, just to make this clear, right? Accounting costs or business costs is simply cash outlays, right? The stuff you pay for, right? So with this guy that copied or ripped off these textbooks, he just accounted for his copy costs when he should have accounted for the copy costs plus the opportunity cost of his time. So business profits are simply total revenues, price times quantity, minus accounting costs. I don't care about those, never will care about those. I'm never going to run a business, and I'm never going to teach accounting. And I don't think it governs behavior in these models. But what we're going to care about is economic profit. Economic profit is total revenue minus economic costs. So the total opportunity cost of all resources used in the production process. When I talk about total costs, the cost curves I've been drawing for 3 lectures now, those are all economic cost curves, right? So we are really accounting for the full opportunity cost of all resources used, right? If some entrepreneur does a startup and doesn't pay himself a salary, an accountant won't count a cost there because that resource is free, but an economist would say, well, that entrepreneur could have gone and worked for somebody else and gotten $500,000 a year, so we should account for the opportunity cost of those $500,000, all right? So economic profits is what we're talking about. This also means since business costs are less than economic costs, sometimes equal to, but usually less than economic costs, that means business profits are usually higher than economic profits, all right? So we always use economic profit. We're paying for the full opportunity cost of all resources used. Now we're of course going to have a profit function. I'm going to draw that for you, and I'm going to just ask you to trust me that it's right, and then I'm going to derive it, and it'll be really painful. But since we've drawn so many painful pictures already today, I don't want to draw any more painful pictures. So what varies with output in my profit function? Well, profit is just total revenue, price times quantity, right? So total revenue varies with output because for each unit I get P dollars. So if I get one more unit, I get P more dollars. So total revenue goes up linearly if price is exogenous or determined in markets, goes up linear with output. So revenue is a function of quantity. And if you don't understand that costs are a function of quantity at this point, you should really start studying hardcore, right? Costs change with output in the short run and in the long run. These are the total cost curves we've talked about. So I've used TC in most settings. I'm sorry for omitting the C here. I just think of costs, so let's call this TC. So I'm going to worry about the profit maximizing firm in the short run first, all right? The profit maximizing decision in the short run turns out to be a 2-step decision. 2 steps. The first one is figure out how much output you should be producing. What's the optimal quantity I should be producing given current market price, price of labor, and price of capital, right? So what Q star maximizes my profits? And then I should look at whether at that output level, that optimal output level, if I'm losing money in the short run, whether I should shut down or whether I should continue producing at that level. So what I will show you in the short run in a second is that it may be optimal for you in the short run to continue producing even though your profits are negative. Okay. So what does the profit curve look like? The profit curve looks like this. And it just says faith up there. It means please do trust me. the profit curve is going to look something like this. So let me ask you a question. Where in this profit curve would you love to be? The highest point, right? Max, I want to be right there, right here. This is profit maximizing point, right? Because if I'm to the left of it, if I increase output, right, if I increase output, the change in profit due to a change in output is positive. So I should increase output to increase profits. If I'm to the right of this point, if I increase output, my profits fall, right? So I want to be at the point where to the left here, change in profits due to a change in output is positive. So you can increase your profits if you increase output. To the right here, the change in profit due to a change in output is negative. So if you're anywhere to the left of the straight line, you want to produce more. If you're anywhere to the right of this line, you want to produce less. So the optimal point here is 1, where the change in profit due to the change in quantity is exactly 0. So for those of you who do remember calculus, what you're trying to figure out is the maximum of an inverse u function right here. And the slope at the top here, which is the change in profits due to the change in quantity right here, that slope is exactly 0. So you want to be there. That's clear to me. Now, I'm not going to, it says proof here, but we're not going to do that tiny little proof today. We'll do that tiny little proof today on Tuesday. But let me use my last 2 minutes here to give you some intuition. Okay? We're going to choose our optimal output level where profit is maximized. Right? That's pretty simple. An equivalent statement to say is we're going to choose our optimal output quantity where the marginal profit, which is simply defined as the change in profit due to the change in output, is exactly 0. This here is marginal profit. Yeah, I'm getting myself in trouble. Marginal profit right here. It's the change in profit to the change in output. That same statement I will show you on Tuesday is exactly equivalent to saying you want to produce at an output level where marginal revenue, meaning the additional revenue you get from producing one more unit or selling one more unit, is exactly equal to the marginal cost of producing it. Intuition. If you can take in $10 by producing one more unit, and it would cost you $8 to produce that additional unit, should you produce that additional unit? Yes, right? You get more money than it costs you. If it costs you $12 to produce an additional unit and you get $10, should you produce it? No, right? So your optimal production point is where your marginal revenue is exactly equal to marginal cost. Today was a lot. Have a nice weekend. I shall see you on Tuesday.